Mark Grayson, aka Invincible, always looked up to his father, the Omni-Man, Earth's greatest superhero. But in Season 1, that illusion was shattered when Omni-Man revealed he was a Viltrumite agent sent to conquer Earth, after massacring the Guardians and nearly killing Mark before fleeing the planet. Season 2 saw Mark grappling with that betrayal while facing a new threat in Angstrom Levy, a multiverse-hopping villain hell-bent on destroying him. Mark also reunited with his father on a distant planet named Thraxa, and discovered his half-brother, Oliver. Season 3 escalated everything right from the word go. The catastrophic Invincible War, a brutal showdown with a Viltrumite warrior conquest, and a harder, darker Mark who's now willing to kill to protect the people he loves. And now, we come to the penultimate Season 4. Mark Grayson, aka Invincible, is nearly emotionless after fighting numerous villains across the world. Even his half-brother Oliver, now fully grown, is exhausted from all the battles. He's in a sour teenage mood when Mark asks him to go on another mission with renewed resolve. Mark goes alone to an already wrecked site, but can't see the villain. Just then, a humongous dinosaur appears and attacks him with a furious rage. Invincible is astonished by the claims the dinosaur makes, that Invisible has destroyed property and killed hundreds of people. Although Invincible ultimately defeats him, he discovers it's just a normal guy who has been taken over by something. That night, Mark goes to Eve's parents' house for dinner, but it doesn't go that well because Eve's father is that kind to strangers. Especially the boyfriends who are basic killing machines in everyone's eye. After dinner, Eve's father talks to Mark more privately and lets him know that dating someone like Eve is not the best idea. Eve tries to console him with a hug and some coffee, but lately her coffee has been off. Yikes. Cecil comes to meet Rex the Robot, Monster Girl, Black Samson, Shapesmith, and the team to get them into the Guardians once again as the world is running out of superheroes for its protection. But Rex the Robot doesn't get to be the leader this time. The next morning, Oliver and Mark greet Paul, who has spent the night at their house with their mom Debbie, and Paul is embarrassed to meet them. Eve comes rushing down with an emergency call from a power plant who has hired their protection through Invincible Inc. A woman from another planet has suddenly appeared on Earth, and she is going after the power resources. She has attacked the power plant and is now trying to absorb all the energy through her magic staff. Meanwhile, down at the sewers, 2 maintenance workers are attacked by sequids from Mars and are taken over. It seems they've been building up strength deep within the sewers, with many hosts taken over. Soon after, through the city's sewer lines, millions of sequids are blasting out to take over the city, and then the planet Earth. People are running everywhere and it's total chaos at the city, and GDA is alerted to the high-level emergency and they start deploying their contingency plan to control and subdue the situation with a containment plan, and the GDA agents trying to rescue civilians under sequid control. Invincible and Eve quickly reach the power plant and confront the new woman, Universa, who is threatening to take over all the power for her world. She is not ready to reason with them, and Mark tries to hold her back, but her electric shots are way too powerful. Eve then tries to contain her powers with magic, but surprisingly, Eve's magical powers seem to be fading. Maybe that explains the coffee as well. Mark gets back up and punches Universa off air as she falls down, but Invincible gets electrocuted trying to hold her magic staff. Universa cannot get the upper hand because Eve is there, with powers or no powers, throwing a big fist to knock her out for good. Cecil comes there right away to call them for backup as the sequid attack is too much for the Guardians and the GDA, and the containment unit is almost at a breaking point. Unfortunately, only Mark can show up since Eve has lost her powers and returns home. Invincible joins up with the GDA ground crew and the Guardians, trying to throw punches at millions of sequids and to save and teleport the civilians to the GDA center. Rex goes against the orders and gets out of his suit to climb down to the sewers to look for other hosts. He gets attacked by a host but quickly regains himself, saves several human hosts, and returns to the base unharmed. Invincible sees the main sequid host, Russ Livingston, and tries to charge at him. But waves of millions of sequids hold him back and many other heroes from reaching the main host. The sequid attacks on the containment unit is growing by the second, and according to Donald, it's not going to hold for much more time. Invincible calls for a disruptor, and Bulletproof tries his level best to get a disruptor to Invincible before it's too late. Mark gets hold of Russ Livingston, but he needs the disruptor before the Sequids break through the containment unit. Mark cannot take a chance and kills Russ Livingston on the spot, and all the Sequids lose their living energy source. It's a sad scene, but it was needed for the betterment of the larger world. Keep your head up, champ. After all the drama, Donald has some bad news for Cecil. Conquest has woken up and has easily broken through his underground containment and has now exited the Earth's atmosphere. But he will be back, and when he is back, it's definitely not going to be pretty. It's an asteroid falling onto the Viltrumite world. But wait, it seems to be an alien weapon falling onto the ground and releasing a biogas onto the Viltrumite world. Wonder what it does. Meanwhile, a young Nolan is tutoring a group of younger Viltrumites. They are learning to become fierce warriors to defend their race. Much like Kim Jong-un's North Korea. Jeez. Soon after, Nolan's mother and father come to beat him up and welcome him to adulthood on his turning day. Some weird Viltrumite culture to beat their kids up on turning to adulthood. After getting heavily beat up by his parents, Nolan goes to the Cadet Recruits Division for the completion of his training program, but then, one by one, his fellow cadets fall down with blood gushing out, taken by an unknown illness. Viltrumite officers, and soon after, the whole Viltrum civilization is hampered by the unknown disease, with numbers going far beyond millions and billions. Nolan gets into the disease control efforts with their command leaders, looking into the bioweapons used against them in a cowardly effort to eradicate their civilization. Although Nolan is taken ill eventually, he is one of the very few Viltrumites to recover from the deadly disease, and it's unfortunate that he has to dispose of his dead father himself. The billions of dead Viltrumite bodies are disposed off the planet, and the bodies start orbiting the Viltrumite planet, creating a halo of dead bodies. The whole story is now told by Nolan to his friend Alan the alien as they descend on Alan's planet secretly. Alan is welcomed by his longing girlfriend, but it takes some effort to convince her of Nolan's honest ideas of working with them. Later, the trio goes to their planet's leader, Thaddeus, and reveals their secret weapon, Nolan the Viltrumite. But the real surprise is Thaddeus. He is the first Viltrumite to betray their kind and turn against their mission to dominate the universe, and Nolan realizes they call him the Betrayer for that. Nolan is ready to support their war against the Viltrumites, with his knowledge of secret weapons scattered around the universe. The trio secretly take flight in a rundown spaceship and reach the first weapon's location, the Infinity Ray by the Space Racer. Nolan tries to get hold of it, and after a heated exchange between the two parties, the Space Racer joins their course and departs to meet Thaddeus. They visit many other places to collect creatures and weapons, including the slimy Sinlac beetle, whose slime is physically harmful to any Viltrumite. They next visit a planet with all creatures dead and gone long ago. The Galadrians are ready to discuss the efforts against the Viltrum Empire after Nolan apologizes for his past attacks on them. They direct them back to Earth to meet up with Battlebeast, who is the only Galdarian available for such a mission. After many sleepless nights due to loud sex noises by Alan and his girlfriend, Nolan finally decides to look for any other place to sleep in the ship and is surprised and angry to find many other empty rooms. They then come to the Ragnars, the most feared and challenging beasts the Viltrum Empire has ever come across. The whole Ragnar planet is now frozen by Viltrumites long ago by blocking their sun, and now Nolan and Alan try to capture a couple of frozen Ragnar creatures for their mission unsuccessfully. Their ship fires missiles accidentally and destroys the blocker, and the creatures come alive. The duo has to deal with ferocious attacks from the creatures and almost die, if not for Talia's brains to cover the sun with their ship and freeze the creatures again. After Talia gains the full command of the ship and throw out the previous captain, they return to their planet and discuss with Thaddeus about the progress. Thaddeus invites Nolan into a secret lab where he shows him the Scourge virus, new and improved since he was the true inventor who wiped out billions of Viltrumites before. Nolan is super angry realizing the Betrayer has betrayed the Viltrum Empire once more, and this time, he has wiped them out. Thaddeus tells him that he can do whatever he wants, but Nolan backs down. Nolan decides to leave to Earth to get Mark to join the mission, so Thaddeus won't have to use the Scourge virus again. Elsewhere, Conquest returns to his empire and requests a painful death at the hands of their leader, Thrag the Mighty, but he has other plans for him. Titan walks into a bar and it's Machine Head he is meeting with. Machine Head has some news. It seems like Master Liu is in town and he is not really dead. Machine Head wants Titan to join the Order, but he refuses and walks out to watch out on his own. Cecil and Donald are worried about Mark. Although they cannot do anything about it, Invincible is a walking nuclear bomb. Meanwhile, at the Guardians, some say Mark was right to do what he did, but Rex does not agree. While going in for a shower, a Sequid comes out of Rex's mouth and tries to jump on his face. Good thing Monster Girl was around to take care of it, and now they both know they need a permanent solution for their enemies. Mark comes home from the incident and tries to calm himself down. He wants to talk with Eve, but she's not picking up her phone. Eve is trying to concentrate on her magic skills, but it seems like she's losing it more and more. Paul wants Debbie to look at a brand new house, as they were planning to move in together, but Debbie is all emotional about her old house. She comes home and finds Oliver, where she hugs him tight. Meanwhile, at a nearby city park, Titan goes for a stroll with his wife and their daughter. His entourage is making sure it's safe for him and his family, but all of a sudden, the security is taken out by the Magna Attack, a ninja warrior sent by Master Liu. Titan sends his wife and daughter running off to safety, while he takes on the ninja warrior with his magnetic iron shreds cutting deep into him. But a second assassination attack on his wife and daughter by Magna Attack puts Titan into a frenzy as he pounds down on the ninja warrior, killing him eventually. Invincible is called for a meeting with Cecil at the GDA, and as Mark and Cecil have a heated argument, Sinclair comes to apologize for Mark for all his wrongdoings, making it worse. Mark is angry, but he understands. Back at home, Mark runs into Eve, who is breaking down as she has lost most of her powers. They get a call for Invincible Inc. with a new job, and Oliver volunteers to go instead of Mark. The call is from Titan, as he needs to confront Master Liu at his hideout. Initially, Titan doesn't want to get help from Oliver, but after seeing his strength, changes his mind. They go after Master Liu at his secret hideout. Unfortunately, at the same time, the Flaxans attack Earth for the 4th time, even after Omni-Man threatened to destroy their planet. But this time, they seem to be well prepared. The Flaxans are heavily armed. They're not just killing people, they're taking them prisoners as well. They're arriving hundreds at a time, and if the Guardians cannot stop them quickly, it's all going to be too little too late for everyone. Cecil gives specific orders to the Guardians on how to carry out their counterattacks and gets Invincible to join the fight against the Flaxans. But when Invincible gets to the battleground, the Flaxans attack him with mega robots especially made to counter the Viltrumite power, after studying his father previously. Mark is thrown from side to side and gets beaten up heavily. The Guardians are kept at bay by the Flaxans as they shoot them up with their continuous laser beams from all directions. They're still looking for an antenna protecting the Flaxans from aging on Earth. Rex goes to cover Monster Girl, who is taking heavy fire, and asks her to trust him. Rex has an idea and asks all the Guardians to cover him and the Monster Girl. Even their team captain is obeying Rex's orders now, and defends the two from Flaxan's heavy fire. Rex and Monster Girl run towards their portal and get to the other side after cutting through the Flaxan ranks. They see a huge radio emitter pointed towards the portal, and Rex orders Monster Girl to save as many civilians as she can while he makes a run towards the emitter. While Monster Girl frees the civilians, Rex targets the radio emitter and blasts it off, cutting out the Flaxan anti-aging transmission. All the Flaxans and their weapons age and die within seconds on the other side. Although Monster Girl wants to run back through the portal, Rex goes to check out the Flaxan armies and is amazed at their power. He radios to his captain on the other side to bring the Guardians to finish the job from this side. Although Cecil shouts not to do it, Britt, as the captain of the Guardians, orders everyone to charge through the portal onto the Flaxan world to finish the attack. Unfortunately, a Flaxan goes back and shoots the portal generator, cutting down the portal opening. The Guardians are unable to make it through. Rex and Monster Girl are stuck on the other side, with Cecil fuming at the catastrophe. Meanwhile, at the Order, Machine Head gladly introduces the new member joining them, Titan. But the real surprise comes later, as Master Liu also joins the Order, and the two enemies realize they have been played by Machine Head himself. He only wants one thing in this world: more power to make more money. Mark wakes up in the middle of the night looking for Eve. Seems like Eve has found out about another secret surprise. At Art Rosenbaum's costume shop, Mark attempts to return his black and blue suit, expressing a concerning fear that he is becoming just like his father, Omni-Man. Art gently reminds Mark that the very fact his guilt is eating him alive proves he is nothing like his ruthless father. Art then reveals he has been working on an upgraded version of Mark's classic yellow and blue costume. Just then, Mark receives a sudden call from Eve regarding a new Invincible Inc. mission involving the mummy villain Kahor. Meanwhile, in the Underrealm, the demonic forces of House Darkblood are waging a losing war. Damian Darkblood and his sister Domina are making a desperate last stand against Volcanica, a fearsome flame-headed lava monster who has conquered hell alongside her army of Magma Knights. Domina attempts to engage Volcanica in one-on-one combat, but the Magma Ruler's regenerative abilities prove too powerful. With a single devastating punch, Volcanica fills Domina's body with magma and blows her apart, seemingly killing her and securing her absolute dominion over the underworld as the helpless brother Damian watches on. The defeated and battered Damian Darkblood brings the remains of his sister to their father, the Satan himself, currently reduced to a frail, puny demon form. Satan attempts a ritual to resurrect the fallen members of the Darkblood clan, but his weakened state doesn't allow him to complete the spell. Damian initiates a backup ritual of his own. Utilizing his signature trench coat and a vial of Omni-Man's blood, Damian attempts to summon Nolan for help. However, the ritual misfires. Instead of pulling Omni-Man into the Underrealm, it yanks Mark, still wearing his black and blue suit, directly into hell. When Mark was suddenly pulled through a portal to the Underrealm by Damian Darkblood, Riley was alone in the tomb with a very frustrated Kahor. Having lost his chance to possess a hero with godlike powers, Kahor grows tired of his millennia-long imprisonment. He then decides to possess Riley, taking control of her body. For the first time in the series, Kahor successfully exits his tomb. However, as he is now in Riley's normal human body, he realizes he has no powers and is stranded in the middle of the vast desert, forced to start the long trek on foot. Upon his abrupt arrival, a disoriented Mark almost immediately attacks Satan, assuming the demonic figure is an enemy. Damian quickly intervenes and stops Mark. Damian reveals that he did not return to hell by choice, but was exorcised there by Cecil Stedman. Damian asks Mark for help retrieving the molten crown to restore Satan to his true monstrous form. While Damian admits he originally intended to summon Omni-Man to leverage his self-interest, Mark reluctantly agrees to help, warning them that he is strictly not interested in unnecessarily hurting anyone. The unlikely duo of Mark and Damian then begin a long, seemingly endless plummet down a massive subterranean hole. Upon reaching the bottom, they are immediately confronted by a fearsome Greek hellhound, Cerberus. Mark casually fends off the aggressive beast somehow and determines to deal with the underworld's defenses as they make their way towards Volcanica. Their mission erupts in a heavy metal-fueled battle as Satan manages to bring the Darkblood clan back, but a recovering Domina is still too gravely wounded to fight, forcing her to pass her battle axe to Damian. Volcanica and her Magma Knights quickly overpower the resurrected clan again, leaving only Mark, Damian, and the frail Satan standing. Stepping up to finish the job, Mark casually overpowers the demonic ruler. Abandoning his earlier hesitation, Mark swiftly and brutally beats Volcanica, ultimately causing her to melt away into nothingness. As she evaporates, she leaves Mark with an ominous warning that she will never truly be gone. Just like any other fallen enemy, right? No surprises there. A smaller gang of demonic creatures called the Vile rises from the lava in a final ambush, but they are swiftly defeated, securing the Darkblood clan's survival, Domina's path to recovery, and Satan's rightful throne. Back on Earth, Eve confides in her friend William. Eve reveals that she is pregnant and admits that while she wants to have a family with Mark eventually, she feels completely unprepared to be a mother right now. William comforts her, noting that she sounds terribly unsure, and gently urges her that she needs to have this difficult conversation with Mark rather than him. Victorious and battle-hardened, Mark returns to the surface world. He finally sheds his dark attire and dons the upgraded classic yellow and blue suit Art made for him. He flies back to the Grayson household, arriving to find his mother, Debbie, and his half-brother Oliver waiting for him and Eve. Debbie tells Mark that she plans to move in with Paul. After that, Mark goes outside onto the roof. Mark explains to Eve what happened to him while he was gone and how he feels about his mom's choice, as Eve prepares to tell Mark about the pregnancy. Their reunion is instantly undercut when Nolan and Alan arrive. Nolan tells Mark that war is upon us. Alan is showing pictures of his pet to Eve as, up in the sky, Nolan reveals to Mark the true reason he was sent to Earth, to see if humans were a genetically compatible species for breeding with Viltrumites. He then convinces him to join the fight against the Viltrum Empire, set to leave for Telescria the next day. Alan flies off to look for Tech Jacket, while Mark warns Nolan about talking to Debbie, but he must nonetheless do it anyway. Later, at nighttime, with much hesitation, Nolan apologizes to Debbie for the damages he caused to her and Mark, repenting for his sins against humanity. Debbie berates him, saying after what he has done, he cannot repair the damage. She then starts to break down and hits Nolan, ultimately hurting her hand. She then bluntly requests Nolan to leave the house, to which he does. Meanwhile, the Walking Dread is harnessing power from a power station, as he gets shot by Tech Jacket. After some fighting, Tech Jacket emerges victorious. Her father then calls her to see their space station, saying there is someone who wants to see her. At the Grayson house, Debbie is drinking a glass of wine when Mark sits down, reassuring her it will be okay. Oliver walks in the room, asking why they're sitting in the dark. He then gets angry because Nolan did not greet him when he was here and wants to go with Mark. Debbie then asks them for one last thing before they leave. As the Graysons, Paul and Eve, gather for a final dinner before Mark and Oliver head to space to fight the Viltrumites. Alan and Nolan discuss Oliver and Mark joining, and then they arrive on the venture. Oliver gets into a deep-rooted conversation with Omni-Man about him wanting to help fight in the war, and Omni-Man cannot simply order Oliver around, it seems, after abandoning him. Afterwards, Omni-Man notices Tech Jacket boarding the ship as well. Cecil and Donald watch the ship leaving Earth's orbit, praying they make it back, and remarking that this is the first time Earth has been Viltrumite-free in over 20 years. While on the ship, Tech Jacket and Oliver form a friendly bond. Other warriors on the ship are having fun, and Oliver leaves to go to the back parts of the ship. Omni-Man heads to the food maker machine to make Kanzlok, reminiscing about a flashback where Debbie and him are having a dinner date, but gives Mark his food since he has lost his appetite. Alan and Mark are having a conversation when Tech Jacket comes into the room mentioning that her suit's sensors have been tripped. Then the engine starts failing, with Telia ordering Pickle to blow up the backside of the ship where Oliver and Omni-Man are. Mark, Alan, and Tech Jacket fly out in space to find them, and Mark recovers Oliver just in time to notice that the Viltrumites have arrived. It's the Fear Trio, Crad, Lucan, and the returning Conquest. Conquest sarcastically claims this is what happens when Mark does not finish the job. Oliver jumps after him immediately, and then Lucan jumps at Mark through the spaceship rubble, while Alan and Tech Jacket fight off Crad. Oliver punches Conquest repeatedly until he grabs his head and slowly starts crushing it, until Omni-Man comes in to protect him. Mark punches and knees Lucan in the face and then jumps after Oliver, asking if he is okay, to which he responds with yes. Alan continues fighting off Crad with Tech Jacket. Omni-Man continues fighting Conquest until Mark jumps in to protect him, repeatedly mentioning that he killed him, but Conquest replies that he cannot wait to taste his girlfriend's blood, pushing Mark further to jump after him, kneeing and punching Conquest repeatedly. Lucan continues to fight off Oliver while Crad dodges Tech Jacket's lasers until her vision shuts off, claiming to Alan that she cannot see. Oliver fights Lucan once more as his fist changes into striking position before Omni-Man dropkicks him. Oliver starts to lose breath in space as the lasers move in on the group. Omni-Man ushers him to fly down to a planet nearby to gain his breath. Conquest notices Oliver flying to the planet and snarkily remarks to Mark that he cannot let the little brother miss all the fun while kneeing him in the face and flying after Oliver. Oliver regains his breath until Conquest appears behind him about to strike, until Mark jumps him into the planet's ground, causing a crater. As Mark is flying, he starts to choke Conquest out until Conquest keeps repeatedly punching him multiple times, only for him to stand his ground and then fly him off into the atmosphere. As Alan and Tech Jacket keep fighting, she devises a plan to open a part of the ship running under the Viltrumite cruiser and hide in their storage room, with Lucan claiming to search everywhere. Conquest continues to get choked out by Mark, and he punches him multiple times in the chest and face, running into several pieces of rubble along the way and causing Mark to start coughing up blood. Conquest starts to turn purple as he slams Mark into the ground, and then Mark bites off his thumb and continues to choke him out. Omni-Man runs after Oliver, questioning if he is okay and wondering where Mark is. As Mark continues to fight him off, Conquest puts his fist into a striking position, smiling, and slices a hole through Mark's abdomen. Then he screams out of pain. Mark holds Conquest in place until he stumbles over on his back and his guts begin to spill and get pulled out by Conquest. As Conquest continues to pull out his guts, he begins to succumb to being suffocated by Mark's grip, then rolls his eyes over as he stops pulling Mark's guts out, passing away as his hand reaches the ground. Oliver and Omni-Man both run over to the ground, to the sight of Mark fallen over at the remains of Conquest's body, and his guts spilled out everywhere. Thaddeus remarks to Telia that she made the right decision, and she tears up, feeling conflicted about the decision, praying that the others are okay. Thaddeus remarks that it is time the war has come. On Telescria, Coalition leader Thaddeus works alongside engineers developing weapons specifically targeted against Viltrumite weaknesses. Simultaneously, Grand Regent Thrag declares war against the Coalition at the same time. The war immediately kicks into high gear with continuous, brutal space battles as the Coalition and the Viltrum Empire clash, turning the galactic map from red to blue as the armies fight for supremacy. Back at the Viltrumite command, Grand Regent Thrag grows increasingly angered by the endless skirmishes and the chaos the Coalition is causing. He carries on a one-sided conversation with the skull of the former Emperor Argal. At a desolate, rocky planet, a brutally wounded Mark Grayson lies in a deep coma, barely clinging to life. Omni-Man carves a massive stone memorial for Conquest, although Oliver strongly objects. Unable to leave the planet due to heavily patrolled Viltrumite airspace, Nolan and Oliver are forced to hide and wait out Mark's recovery. Oliver is deeply distraught over his brother's condition and grows impatient, frustrated that they are stuck hiding for months while the Coalition risks their lives in the escalating war. Meanwhile, General Craig orders Lucan and Crad to head to Glacia Prime, where Coalition forces are attempting to take the planet. With no word from Conquest, Craig tells them this is their chance to earn Thrag's forgiveness by crushing the Coalition. On board their ship, Alan and Zoe remain hidden under the protective bubble of her Tech Jacket suit, continuing to stow away like technological barnacles on the hull of the Viltrumite vessel, trying to figure out their next move while passing time playing a video game and trading goofy jokes about binocular vision. Back on the planet, Nolan battles a massive centipede-like creature that ultimately swallows him whole, only for him to violently burst out of its body. Oliver uses the creature's fluids to feed Mark, though he refuses to eat himself until Nolan forces the issue. The next day, Nolan begins training Oliver, pushing him to fight harder. Oliver lashes out emotionally, confronting Nolan about him being incapable of truly caring for anyone. Nolan admits his failure as a father and tries to explain himself, but Oliver isn't ready to forgive him and flies off. Back in deep space, the Viltrumite vessel carrying Alan and Zoe finally arrives at Glacia Prime. They spot the Coalition forces and attempt to sneak away to join them without raising the alarm. Unfortunately, their stealth plan fails miserably when they are instantly spotted by the imposing Viltrumites Lucan and Crad. A chase ensues, but Zoe begins to fall behind due to the speed limitations of her mech suit. Recognizing the danger, Alan falls back, physically launching Zoe forward to safety while he stays behind to stall the two Viltrumites. The brutal tag team overwhelms Alan, and Crad prepares to deliver a fatal blow. Just in time, Zoe returns with backup, Space Racer. Wielding his legendary infinity ray gun, Space Racer blasts a clean hole straight through Crad, instantly killing him and causing the nearby Viltrumite ship to explode. Outnumbered and outgunned, Lucan and the remaining Viltrumite forces are forced to retreat. Back on the desolate world, Nolan realizes Mark isn't healing properly and needs better nutrition. He and Oliver retrieve eggs from a cave, battling the creature guarding them. Oliver stops Nolan from killing it, reasoning that they'll need a continued food source. This teamwork marks a shift in their relationship, even as tension remains. Alan and Zoe and Space Racer finally arrive at the Coalition stronghold on Telescria. They are greeted with a heartfelt reunion by Telia before she quickly ushers them into a high-stakes debriefing session with Thaddeus to discuss the ongoing war efforts and their next move. They also visit Battle Beast, who is thrilled by the endless opportunity for combat. Nolan finally opens up to Oliver about his mother, admitting he lied to spare Debbie more pain. He explains how Oliver's people changed him and gave him a new perspective on life. He apologizes sincerely, and Oliver begins to soften, asking to hear more about his mother as they continue training and slowly rebuild their bond. As the war rages on, the Coalition begins gaining ground. Back at camp, Mark finally begins to stir, and Nolan assures Oliver that he'll wake soon. Oliver admits he'll miss their time together once they return to the war, showing how much their relationship has grown. Oliver even describes his fizzy feelings about a lobster to Nolan. "I would be a bit concerned as a father, though." "A lobster?" Elsewhere, Craig reports to Thrag that the Viltrumites are losing ground as more planets join the Coalition. Thrag decides to strike Telescria directly, believing Thaddeus has grown complacent. Time jumps forward on the rocky planet, marking the end of a grueling 2-month wait. Mark finally awakens from his coma, surprisingly sporting a full beard. Oliver excitedly points out his brother's new facial hair, but the heartwarming family reunion is cut short when Nolan grimly reminds them that while Mark was healing, the war has raged on, and the galaxy is still in extreme peril. Mark struggles with the fact that he killed Conquest, but Nolan reminds him that this is war and that they are still needed. Back at Telescria, the Coalition's long-suspected mole finally makes their move. Data Twin 2 maliciously lowers the planet's planetary defense systems, leaving the capital completely vulnerable. With the shields down, a massive, horrifying Viltrumite warship looms ominously in the sky above the planet, signaling a catastrophic siege. Telescria is suddenly attacked by a massive Viltrumite force led by Thrag. The assault is devastating, and it becomes clear they were betrayed from within as chaos erupts as Coalition forces scramble to defend the planet. The invasion of Telescria begins as elite Viltrumite warriors, including Anissa, Craig, and Lucan, fly out of the warship to rain down destruction. The battle is an absolute bloodbath. Thaddeus proves he is not just a leader who sits behind a desk. He joins the fray on the battlefield, viciously dispatching his own Viltrumite brethren with ease. Amidst the carnage, Anissa manages to grab hold of Zoe, brutally ripping apart her tech jacket mech suit. Just as all hope seems lost for Zoe and the Coalition forces, Mark, Nolan, and Oliver finally arrive on the battlefield. The Viltrumite warship continues its relentless bombardment until Mark and Oliver team up for a spectacular high-speed maneuver. Flying straight through the center of the massive dreadnought, the brothers obliterate it from the inside out. As the ship explodes in a dazzling display, Thrag is forced to evacuate, leaping out into the void just in time to save Argal's skull. Beaten back and having lost their flagship, the surviving Viltrumites retreat into space. The Viltrumites are forced to retreat but lose several of their own. After interrogating the mole, Thrag is revealed to be retreating to the home planet, so Thaddeus plans to strike Thrag on planet Viltrum before all the scattered Viltrumites could return home to bolster the planet's defenses. Back in time, on an unidentified planet, an alien species called the Rolonians appear to be enslaved by the Viltrumites. While 2 Viltrumites are levitating above, observing the aliens until they fill a tank with purple fluid, the unknown species then rebels, exploding the tank. At Emperor Argal's room, Craig suggests that there should be a cull on the planet's population. Thaddeus disagrees and they start an argument. Emperor Argyle silences both of them and asks Regent Thrag on his council. Emperor Argyle then orders for 25% of the population of the Relonians to be killed, and if it doesn't lead to their submission, exterminate the whole civilization. Thaddeus is shocked and tries to protest that Argyle should reconsider, but Argyle almost threatens Thaddeus and leaves. Later on, Thrag and Argyle have a conversation about Thaddeus and his recent opinions and behavior. Later on, Thaddeus assassinates Emperor Argyle, leading to Thrag becoming Grand Regent until a suitable heir can be found. After the assassination, a few Viltrumites appear to be carrying Argyle's coffin, which leads into Thrag's inauguration speech. In his speech, he commands the population to get rid of the weakness, leading to the Great Purge. Thrag then walks to his throne and sits down. As he then flies out days later to end the Purge, Thrag witnesses Craig, Conquest, and Thula. Conquest then thinks he is going to be fighting Thrag until he says it is over, to which Conquest complies. We then see the construction of Argyle's statue in front of the Viltrumite fortress, as he congratulates those who survived the Purge, as their life is its own reward. Viltrumites listen to Thrag's speech as their true Grand Regent. Then, in the present, Thaddeus gives his team the info about Thrag's whereabouts, and how his other soldiers have not yet returned to their home planet. As he motivates his team one last time, they head off in a coalition warship to Viltrum. Mark tries recording a message for Eve about how they must fight Thrag and how it may be Mark's last chance to record a message for her. Alan the alien, Oliver, Telia, Tech Jacket, and Battle Beast are sitting at a table. Oliver and Zoe have food, but are choosing not to eat it due to its grotesque look. Alan then says they must eat something, to which Battle Beast agrees that they must nourish before battle, or they will perform badly. Elsewhere on the ship, Thaddeus and Nolan discuss the war and what the other Viltrumites could be after the mass extinction of their species. As they prepare to head into space, they plan on sticking together and have emotional moments beforehand, with Nolan hugging Oliver and Telia and Alan kissing each other. Heading out of the ship, they notice the Viltrumite ring and walk through all of the deceased corpses throughout it. Unknown to them, the remaining Viltrumites and Thrag are hiding within, and Thrag stands waiting for the coalition. They begin fighting, with Thaddeus and Thula duking it out until Battle Beast comes in to fight. Thula calls Nolan a traitor as he jumps onto her and punches her. Alan kills one of the Viltrumites as Tech Jacket discusses her sensors not working. Lucan gets teamed up on by both Oliver and Mark as Craig and Thaddeus begin to fight each other. Battle Beast, continuing to get injured, yearns for more fighting in the battle as Alan comes in to protect Thaddeus. Tech Jacket continues to inject one of the Scourge virus weapons onto one of the remaining Viltrumites, and Mark continues to fight effortlessly against a Viltrumite until Space Racer arrives and comes in to shoot him dead. Craig states to kill him before he fires again, but he reveals that it's not his gun he should be worried about, as the Rognars come into battle and ruthlessly tear apart a large part of the remaining fighting Viltrumites. Thrag punches Nolan in the stomach, sending him flying back to Viltrum's home base. Nolan gets up out of the rubble and notices Thrag floating and wanting to discuss the betrayal of his people. Thrag discusses believing in the ability to restore his people to its former glory, and explains that there are people fighting beside him. Nolan replies that he's not his family anymore, and Thrag reminds him of Thaddeus being the person who created the Scourge virus and tells Nolan it's not too late to turn back. As the Rognars continue to fight the Viltrumites in space, Mark and Oliver continue to fight, and Lucan gets angry. The Viltrumites gather around Space Racer, avoiding his infinity ray and breaking his dome, making it harder for him to breathe in space. Tech Jacket comes in to inject them with the Scourge virus and repairs his dome. Thrag mentions Argyle's history to prove to Nolan that they can restore it to what their former leader wanted. Nolan explains that that is the reason why everything fell. Thrag claims that they can rebuild it, and Nolan says he won't. Right then, Thrag delivers a gut-wrenching, dusty punch and sends Nolan right back into the air, with Thrag coming back into the battle. Mark continues fighting the Viltrumites and Oliver flies towards Thrag, making a quippy joke, but not right before Thrag breaks his hand, ripping off his arm and jaw, making Mark distraught. He calls Oliver a failure, to which Mark reveals he killed Conquest and that he'll kill him too. Nolan notices Oliver's injured body flying through space and flies immediately towards him. Tech Jacket runs out of ammunition and Alan protects her while being jumped at by the Viltrumites. Battle Beast continues to fight Craig until he knees him heavily in the face, looking rather displeased with Battle Beast's remarks. Mark continues to try punching Thrag, but to no avail. Battle Beast remarks finally to fight Thrag. Nolan remarks for everyone to move with him towards Viltrum, and Space Racer attempts to shoot at the remaining Viltrumites. Mark asks what they're about to do, and Nolan explains to trust him. Thrag realizes what they're about to do and rockets towards them along with the other Viltrumites. Space Racer shoots his infinity ray towards the planet along with Thaddeus, Mark, and Nolan to make a blue ember fly down onto the ground, causing a massive explosion that destroys Viltrum's surface completely and utterly. Alan sees the explosion with awe, and the other Viltrumites look distraught. Thaddeus, Nolan, and Mark continue to soar through the core of Viltrum's atmosphere and explode the entire planet, at the risk of almost burning themselves in the process. Everyone flies out as Mark, Nolan, and Thaddeus' upper halves of their costumes tear off. Tech Jacket flies and Alan grabs her to protect her. The Viltrumites are in a state of shell shock. Thaddeus remarks that their planet is destroyed and the only option is to surrender, to which Thrag cries out, ripping apart a giant rock with tears in his eyes. Thrag immediately jumps forward in a fit of rage, claiming he chooses death, and rips Thaddeus' head right off, effectively killing him. Now, the Coalition is in a state of panic as he claims they're all next, with him jumping towards Nolan. Mark yells out for Alan to find Oliver as Nolan and Thrag continue to battle. Nolan kicks himself off before Thrag jumps out again to hit him, with Mark flying in to protect his father before getting punched and kneed away. Nolan gets punched multiple times by Thrag in a fit of rage, with him claiming he made a mistake with Thaddeus and won't with him. Alan tries to defuse the Viltrumite's anger and yells out for Space Racer, leaving him, Space Racer, and Tech Jacket to fight through the Viltrumites. Two of the Viltrumites are killed by Space Racer's Infinity Ray before Craig yells out in anger at the situation. Thrag flies at Mark, grabbing his face before Nolan pushes him away. Mark asks for a way to defeat him, and Nolan states his name before getting punched through the chest by Craig, spilling out his guts and placing Mark in a state of panic and fear. Thrag then grabs Mark's neck and headbutts him, putting him in a daze, and grabbing his skull, slowly pushing his fingers into his eyes and making Mark scream, trying to push him off, before looking at Viltrum's destroyed remains. Craig arrives with the other Viltrumites stating to kill him. Thrag tells him to silence and mentions how they are too few already. Thrag places his hands off of Mark before Craig asks what his orders are, leaving them to float away in space for a while before the Coalition warship finds them. Alan wakes Mark up from recovery as he remarks that it's been a few weeks since the war. He asks for Oliver and Nolan's whereabouts, with Nolan fully recovered looking over at Oliver in a form of cryostasis. He mentions that he needs more time to heal, and Mark asks where Thrag and the Viltrumites are. Nolan tells him to tell them what he remembers, before Mark mentions the events and asks why Thrag didn't kill him. Talia mentions that they have effectively disappeared and aren't seen in any of the sectors nearby. Mark goes wide-eyed and realizes that they have gone to Earth. Grand Regent Thrag and his heavily armed command ship hover ominously over Earth. Without warning, the full force of the Viltrumite army descends on a densely populated city, creating massive tidal waves and reducing towering skyscrapers to rubble as they mercilessly slaughter thousands of innocents. The absolute destruction is horrifying, but suddenly, the cataclysmic event is abruptly revealed to be a misdirect. It is merely a severe traumatic nightmare playing out in the mind of a traumatized Mark Grayson, suffering from both PTSD and anxiety of a future Viltrumite attack. Mark violently awakens aboard an interstellar starship traveling back to Earth, completely frozen in fear. Zoe, aka Tech Jacket, interrupts to ask if they have a tactical plan for their return, but a paralyzed Mark and a brooding Nolan completely ignore her inquiry. Later, inside the spaceship's quiet dining area, the tension remains palpable. Zoe attempts once more to strike up a conversation with Mark and Nolan at the table, but her efforts are met with total silence. The father-son duo remains completely unresponsive, lost in their own deep-seated anxieties. The awkward silence is finally broken when the ship's captain announces their final approach to Earth. Mark is consumed by an impulsive fear for his mother and girlfriend and everything he loves on Earth. He abruptly abandons the ship and flies down to the planet's surface, completely alone, to conduct a fear-fueled reconnaissance mission. Sweeping his hometown from the sky, he cautiously observes that everything appears completely normal and peaceful, with absolutely no signs of a Viltrumite invasion. Nolan and Tech Jacket soon join him in the Earth's atmosphere, confirming that the enemy's forces haven't struck yet and that the planet remains untouched. Mark arrives at his home, where his mother, Debbie Grayson, tearfully greets him after his excruciatingly long absence. As they embrace and Mark sits down to begin explaining the severe injuries, he experiences a sudden, brutal hallucination of Thrag bursting into the living room and violently ripping Debbie's head off. Mark struggles immensely to maintain his composure, forcibly keeping the horrifying vision to himself as he tries to finish updating his devastated mother. Meanwhile, back in Earth's orbit, Zoe returns to her personal space station. She enters the main control room to find her father, Ed, sound asleep at his computer console, surrounded by empty snack wrappers. She quickly realizes that he was so relentlessly worried about her safety during the war that he had not even showered or changed his clothes in days. Back on Earth, Mark flies over to see his girlfriend, Eve. She bursts into tears the moment she sees him, overwhelmed with the profound relief because his months-long absence led her to genuinely believe he had died in combat. They share a deeply emotional reunion that leads them to the bedroom. Afterward, lying together, Eve points out that she has gained some weight, attributing it to the stress of living with her parents and overeating while he was gone. Mark gently reassures her that he loves her unconditionally and could not care less about her physical appearance. Eve then reveals that her superpowers have miraculously returned, though she lives with the constant terrifying anxiety that they might mysteriously turn off again. She admits she knows exactly why her powers vanished in the first place, but before she can explain, Mark suffers another severe panic attack. He visibly hallucinates Thrag breaking through the window and violently murdering Eve. After Eve manages to calm him down, she tearfully confesses the devastating truth. In his absence, she has had an abortion. Both are devastated, and Mark hugs her tightly. Nolan goes to the exact spot he gave a once-in-a-lifetime beating to Mark, trying to convince him to join him in his Viltrumite course, but this time, Cecil is waiting for him. Cecil is angered to know they were not able to defeat the Viltrumite Empire and leaves with disgust after hearing out Nolan's plans for confronting the Viltrumites. Mark is heartbroken, but is mad at himself for being the Invincible and being a burden on his loved ones. But Eve manages to comfort him and turn things around somewhat. But the real surprise comes when Nolan comes to tell Mark that he is leaving for Telescria to prepare for the upcoming battle against the Viltrumite if they found them anywhere in the universe. That's when Debbie announces that she is leaving with him to Telescria to take care of her second son, Oliver. More than anyone, Nolan is the most surprised. Somehow, with great effort, Nolan carries Debbie to the spaceship as Mark and Eve bid farewell to her. As the ship leaves the Earth's atmosphere, Debbie is awestruck by the beauty of Earth seen from space. Meanwhile, Cecil is having a meeting with Mark and notices the change in his personality. Seems like Mark really needs some psychotherapy before he lives to see another day. Eve suggests to him that he should take some flying around time to calm his body and mind because it always helped them back in time. Mark takes her advice and goes flying into the atmosphere and calms himself by looking at the majestic Earth. Unfortunately, his calmness doesn't hang around much longer as he sees what he dreaded all this time becoming a reality. Right in front of him, the Grand Regent Thrag is in the sky, now looking at him. Mark sees the immediate future he always feared and goes into panic mode as he flies in to deliver a death blow to Thrag, which has no effect on the Grand Regent whatsoever. Jesus! Thrag is unbothered as he easily pushes away Invincible and orders him to stop. As Invincible looks on with horror, Grand Regent Thrag announces their plan as all the 37 remaining Viltrumites will start living among the human population on Earth. They will live undercover, just like normal human beings, and start relations to increase their Viltrumite population, and Thrag wants Invincible to shake on it, or otherwise, it's total annihilation for planet Earth and its living beings. Mark has no other option, and agrees to his terms, and Thrag calls a truce, as the Viltrumites will never affect Earth under any circumstance. Dear Mark, what have you done, my boy? What have you done? Meanwhile, Alan watches a pre-recorded message from Thaddeus, instructing him to wipe out all the remaining Viltrumites in the universe, using the all-secret, newly improved Scourge virus. With that, ends the 4th season of Invincible. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the upcoming series.